Chair Ruby, you are live.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the Pillar One Advisory Committee to the AIB. Today's May the 1st. And Gina Hoover will be hosting this meeting and she will take over as soon as we finish the introduction. Um, uh, my name's Ruby Daniels again, and I'm the chair of the Pillar One Advisory and the president of the Maryland State Family Child Care Association. And I'm joined here by Gina Hoover, who's going to be hosting this event. Gina, you want to take over?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I am Gina Hoover. I am a member of the Pillar One Advisory Committee, and I am the Early Learning Lead Teacher with Washington County Public Schools. And I'm happy to help lead this meeting tonight. So we will start with introductions, and then we will just kind of work our way through the agenda. So I will pass it on to one of my advisory committee colleagues. Dr. Ray, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Good evening, Dr. Rainier Miller, the Consortium for Accomplished Educators, Charles County and Prince George's County. Glad to be here and welcome to our guest. You want me to pick the next person? How about Linda?
Hi, Linda Ground-Burquin, member of the committee, and I'm the Department Chair of Teacher Education at the Community College of Baltimore County. Joy?
Hi, I'm Joy Schaefer. I'm the Government Relations Director at the AIB. Let's see, Kelly?
I guess we're doing speakers now.
Well, we can. Yeah, we can. It's fine.
Okay. I was like, I guess it's me. So I am Kelly Longerbeam. I am the coordinator for early learning with Washington County Public Schools.
Kelly, do you want to toss it to Dr. Jennifer and then Sakshi, and then we can go back to the committee?
Okay, thanks. Go
Sure.
ahead.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mata McMahon. I'm an associate professor of early childhood education at UMBC and member of the committee. Shashki.
Hi, I'm Sakshi. I'm a junior at Long Ridge High School in Howard County, Maryland, and I'm the student member on this board, and I'm happy to be here today.
So I think we got all of our committee members, right? All right. And then I know we started with Kelly is one of our guests, and we'll come back to our guests here in just a second. We'll let the other members of the AIB introduce themselves, and then we will introduce our amazing guests for this evening.
Thank you, Gina. I am Lisa Armstrong. I'm the policy analyst at the AIB, and I support Pillar One. And I will give a brief update for the AIB. If you haven't already, please go and look on our YouTube page and view the special meeting that the board held on Monday. That has particular information around the waiver requests and approval for Carroll County Public Schools. And also, the AIB is in the midst of a robust hiring process. We had open job announcements for education policy analysts for Pillar 1, Pillar 2, and Pillar 5, and also a job announcement for a financial data analyst. And today we are very lucky to have our government relations director, Joy Schaefer, here with us. She is going to present to the committee on the key legislation that was reviewed and is up for passing at the last General Assembly that directly and somewhat indirectly impacts Pillar One. And Joy is going to share her screen and walk us through the key legislation.
Great, thank you. Hold on, let me just push the right buttons here.
Okay,
And I think I'm sharing my screen.
you are.
Yeah.
We can see it.
Perfect. So good afternoon, Chair Daniels, Vice Chair Miller, and members of Pillar One Advisory Committee. Thanks for the opportunity to participate in your meeting and provide an overview of the 2025 legislative session and the impacts to the blueprint, but with a special emphasis to the changes legislatively to Pillar One. So just as an overview, the General Assembly considered over 2,600 bills and passed 879. The governor has until May 27th to sign, veto, or allow them to take effect without his signature, and he has already had a couple of bill signing sessions. Before I go into depth about the legislation that has impacts to Pillar One, I wanted to provide you with a brief overview of the legislation that affected the other pillars of the blueprint. With regard to Pillar Two on teachers and leaders, House Bill 888 provided an additional quality pathway for candidates to qualify for their initial teacher certificate. In career and college readiness in Pillar 3, the governor's education bill, House Bill 504, extended the per pupil allocation for career counseling for middle and high school students for 2 years beyond the original termination date of FY26. And his RAISE Act passed, and that's key to his strategy to grow the economy and aims to expand registered apprenticeship to new industries and employers. 2 bills with impact to Pillar 4. One requires MSDE to develop a comprehensive plan for the establishment of restorative practice schools, and another requires MSDE to establish a task force to improve attendance and reduce chronic absenteeism in schools. And in terms of governance and accountability in Pillar 5, there were some changes to the oversight and administration of community schools, as well as some additional reporting requirements for the AIB. So this session, the governor's focus through his budget and legislation was to grow the state's economy on the foundation of 3 pillars. The first was investments in industries of the future. The second was reforming the tax system to make it simpler, fairer, and pro-growth. And then the third was investments in, and this includes the state students and Maryland's workforce. And this education bill, which I mentioned earlier, comes in. And because of its direct impact to the blueprint, I thought I'd highlight the effects of this bill. So the governor stated that one of his goals is to have the best schools in the nation. And through his Excellence in Maryland Public Schools Act, his intent was to maintain the state's commitment to achieving the goals of the blueprint while making adjustments to implementation and funding that would ensure its sustainability over the long term. So the governor's bill included 3 major policy areas: a 4-year operational and funding pause to implementing collaborative time. The proposed changes impacted the foundation funding and therefore funding to the blueprint per pupil formulas that are calculated as a proportion of the foundation. There was also a proposed pause and increases to community school funding, as well as changes to the administration and oversight of that program. And there were new initiatives to address the substantial teacher shortage with regard to recruitment, retention, and development of teachers. And so there was quite a bit of debate and deliberation about this bill, and the House and the Senate amended it fairly heavily. So in the end, here is where we ended up. The final result for collaborative time was a 3-year operational pause, but per pupil funding was provided in the foundation for fiscal year 26, as originally called for by the blueprint. And this, of course, resulted in funding for all per pupil blueprint formulas in FY26 that are connected to the foundation per pupil amount. With regard to, I don't know how I got all the way back here. I'm so sorry. So here we are. So with regard to legislative changes to Pillar 1, there was House Bill 1475, or the Mixed Delivery Model Viability Act. This act requires MSDE to convene a work group to conduct an analysis of mixed delivery of the mixed delivery publicly funded full-day pre-K system with a specific focus on the pre-K expansion grant program and its efficacy in supporting the participation of public providers. So this act requires MSDE to study and make recommendations on issues, including program requirements, funding reimbursement. It includes up to, I think, almost 14 areas of study. So in addition to the ones I mentioned, timing of the program components, language access, there were also proposed amendments that were adopted as the bill progressed through session. These amendments added to the study how best to use publicly funded pre-kindergarten to provide quality early childhood education to students with and without disabilities together in the same classroom. That would be things like inclusive of how to braid local, state, and federal funds, teacher and staff recruitment, training and best practices for teachers and staff, collaborations between LEAs and private providers to provide special education services, and a look at facility challenges for adding more pre-K classrooms. I just want to note that originally the bill specified that this analysis would be done by the Office of Child Care Advisory Council within MSDE, but during session, with consideration of that office's capacity for what is turning out to be a very comprehensive study, the bill was amended to shift that responsibility to MSDE. So there will be one member of the Senate appointed by the president, one member of the House of Delegates appointed by the Speaker, and then appointed by the state superintendent, a representative from MSDE, the Department of Health, the Head Start program, the Office of the State Fire Marshal, a child care advocacy organization, a community college with an early childhood education program, and then at least 2 representatives from family child care providers and 2 from a child care center. So in terms of the study and conducting the analysis, the work group is required to solicit feedback from pre-K public providers, private pre-K providers, as well as child care providers who've elected not to participate in the publicly funded pre-K program. It also authorizes the work group to consult with additional subject matter or policy experts, and the reports are due by this work group to the AIB and the General Assembly. There's an interim report due June 1st of 2026, and then a final report due December 31st of 2027. So with this fairly long period, I think the hope is that some things can be implemented. They might identify things that don't need legislation, that might be able to be implemented even after the interim report is completed. And then those components can be evaluated by the final report period. And then that's the time when, legislation is identified to be needed, that can be developed and considered if necessary. So just a few highlights on the FY26 budget, which I'm sure you heard a lot about during session. We opened session with substantial shortfalls in the state's general fund and a structural deficit, which grew during session to nearly $3.5 billion. We opened session with proposed legislation that decreased Blueprint funding, made substantive changes to the implementation, and then also a projected long-term budget shortfall that grew to almost $6 billion in FY30. But we ended the 2025 session with a structurally balanced FY26 budget with nearly $2.5 billion in cash reserves and a structural surplus of $5 million. And the General Assembly achieved this through a combination of $2 billion in reductions and $1.2 billion in new revenue. We ended with all Blueprint formulas fully funded. We ended with the special fund that supports the Blueprint for Maryland's Future Fund, funded until FY28, and a much improved long-term outlook. The General Assembly's actions reduced the projected shortfall in FY27 from almost $3 billion to $155 million, and cut by 50% the projected shortfall in FY2030 from $6 billion to $3 billion. And I just also wanted to elevate some of the language the General Assembly included in legislation to address the uncertainty of federal revenues. They added a provision with regard to education funding that specifies that the per pupil foundation amount and other education aid must not be increased in the annual budget bill if the estimate reported by the Board of Revenue Estimates in December is more than 3.7% below the reported March general fund estimate for the fiscal year. And I didn't include the language on the slide, but there's also a contingency provision for the state budget that stipulates if the federal revenues decrease by $1 billion compared to the budgeted amount in FY26, the Department of Budget Management must submit a report to the Legislative Policy Committee within 90 days that certifies that reduction, outlines the impact by program of those reduced federal revenues, and includes proposed actions, which would be inclusive of reductions if they're needed. So that is it for me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hi, Joy. Thank you so
Hi.
much for that report. It's very elaborate. Just a couple of, I guess, comments that I have in the beginning when you said the Pillar 1, creating like high quality and diverse teachers. Should that also cover Pillar 2? Should that also cover Pillar 1? Because Pillar 1 is also high quality and diverse teachers. Or it's just for Pillar 2?
Well, I think it's a pathway that's available to teachers wherever they, all of our teachers. So yes, I think you're
Okay,
right.
whether they are in Pillar 1 or 2.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing, also the work group, we have our association is also conducting some need analysis of the family childcare landscape. So maybe that's something that we could partner with the work group in terms of the study, when they do the study, because we do have some providers who opt not to participate in the pre-K, but we also have a large group of providers who want to. So we have to kind of develop and look at the reasons why some people want to and some people don't want to. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. Does anybody else have any other questions for Joy? No? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Is that all of the updates from our AIB?
Oh, I'm not sure. Lisa.
Yes, that was the end of the AIB updates this month.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So we will move along in our agenda. Right now, we're going to do a quick recap of last month's meeting. Sakshi, are you ready to give the quick recap and thank all of our guests from last time?
Oh, I would love to do that. However, I was unable to attend the last meeting, so I will be doing the next recap.
Sorry, you're right. Ruby, do we have anything that we need to recall from last meeting that's pressing? Or do you want to move on in the agenda so that we have time for our guests?
Yeah, we could move on today.
Okay. And I'll just quickly thank our guests from last time. We had several guest speakers last time, and we really just appreciate everybody taking their time to come to our meetings and to share out. And I always say one of the best things about these meetings is learning from each other. So we just really appreciate it. So we will go ahead and just move on in our agenda. Do any of the Pillar 1 committee members have anything that they want to share before we move into our guest speakers for this evening? All right, so welcome to all of our guest speakers for tonight. We will just go ahead and go down the list, and you can introduce yourself right before you are ready to speak. And then we can't wait to hear all about what you have to tell us tonight. So we will start with Mei Lin, and you are with Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services. So welcome, and I'll let you introduce yourself. You're muted.
My apologies. Good afternoon. My name is Maylin Mejia, and I am the Blueprint Program Specialist for Montgomery County Child Care Support Services under the DHHS department. My role will be providing direct services to child care providers or family child care providers and center-based child care centers in applying to the pre-K expansion grant, technical support, and all the kind of support that new applicants or grantees may need in the process to award the grant and continue providing high quality services in Montgomery County. So I am very new to the role, less than a month. So this is my first meeting. And thank you, Ruby, for inviting me. I'm here to learn from everybody and from all of you. And absolutely, I can respond to any question. But basically, from now on, I hope you can continue inviting me to the meeting so we can share information and updates about the programs. So far, and under the Office of DHHS and Child Care Support Services, we are meeting with different stakeholders, family child care providers and center-based grantees, people who actually award the grant in the past, and just getting feedback about what do they work, what doesn't work, and see what challenges they address in the grant application, so we can prepare a plan and support other applicants in the future. I think that's it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh yeah, just want to highlight that Maylene visited my program. So I'm one of the pre-K expansion grantee. This is my second year. And we are going to work in partnership because right now we have a private philanthropist that is funding our association. And the ultimate goal is to increase the capacity. It's a capacity building and to increase the quality of programs in order to get the workforce ready for the pre-K. Because like what I mentioned is that a lot of the family child care providers are interested in participating in the blueprint and in becoming a pre-K expansion grantee. However, a lot of them do not fully understand the blueprint or the pre-K expansion. So I guess that would be our number one goal. And if AIB can help us, kind of reach and have more blueprint awareness, or the Pillar One Advisory Committee, if that, if we can help raise that awareness and get people more excited about the program. The second steps that we're going to do would be like a need base, see how many people are where they're at in terms of quality and how they're going to meet the metrics so they can qualify for the program. Because then if they don't fully understand what's required or what's needed of them to be successful, then the goal would be to get the workforce ready. And the ones that are ready, we're going to be fully supporting them with training, possibly some curriculum, and possibly some help with their setup, like equipment or materials. But it would all depend on, how we can stretch our dollars. We can, because it's not, we're funded by a philanthropist. And the ultimate goal would be to increase the number of private providers, because as you know, the public school doesn't have the space. So we would need those private providers. And this is a good step for us to get there. And Maylene, in her capacity, we're working hand in hand. So we're going to see if we can get some, providers ready for next year's grant application. So
I think that's great. I think definitely there are some challenges and it is a lot to read. And when you look at the blueprint, it's a lot. So I think it's great that you are working together. Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our next guest speaker is Kelly, and I get to see Kelly every day. So Kelly, I will let you introduce yourself and welcome, and thank you for being here.
So thank you for inviting me to come join. And I am Kelly Longerbeam, our coordinator for early learning. So just like Gina said, my partner in crime, we get to work together every day and just a joy working with her. So just to kind of give an overview real quick of Washington County Public Schools, I guess it's been 7 or 8 years ago, our superintendent and board at the time really saw the value of early learning and the importance of having 4-year-old pre-K, because our data was showing that regardless of income, all of our students needed that opportunity, because only about 30% of our students were demonstrating readiness on the KRA. So with a massive expansion over the past 7-8 years, we are now able to offer universal pre-K to any 4-year-old wanting that opportunity. So that has been, we're very lucky and blessed to have that opportunity. But with 3-year-olds, as Ruby was saying earlier, we do not have space. So that is really where we need that partnership with that mixed delivery model, and having the partnership and collaboration with our private providers, because we need 3-year-old programming. We don't have space in our public schools. And we really are trying hard and hitting the ground running, trying to get partners on board with us, because, we see the benefits from having that 4-year-old opportunity. So just think if we had that 3-year-old opportunity as well, and how ready our students will be. So some of the things that we do here in Washington County is that we provide on our pre-K application, we actually list our private providers. So if they want more information, any phone calls we get, especially for 3-year-old programming, we send them to our partners. So it's really great to hear when we've been out to visit one of our sites saying, thank you so much for sharing my contact information, because they've actually reached out and had that opportunity. And we do try to go out, Gina and I kind of make little goodie bags up sometimes and do some of our site visits with our partners, because we do value them and appreciate them, because we need them. If any of them reach out, we'll share data and things like that for the grant. We offer grant support with it, because it is a lot of heavy work to do some of the grant writing, as you know, and gathering up. So we're happy to share, partner, collaborate with that, share focus areas or needs that we see for like needs assessments, where we see the weaknesses and things that we could use. So we'll share that information with them. In addition to any community events that we go to, we're always asking, any 4-year-olds, but, they're like, oh, we have a 3-year-old. So we'll send them either to our partners as well as saying, hey, we do have 3-year-old programming free for 3-year-olds. So we share that information with families as well, because, it takes a village. It takes all of us together in it to do it. Some of the promising practices that we have seen, though, from the collaboration is that we've started doing more PD opportunities with some of our partners, especially with Head Start. And we were able even to do some COK Core of Knowledge hours for their staff as well, with a book study we just did this past year with them. Transition activities, as you know, are huge. We just had a collaboration meeting yesterday with MSD, with our private providers and the LEAs, and really focused on those transition opportunities, because you want that warm handoff, whether they're coming to pre-K, whether they're coming to kindergarten, because that's what's going to be successful for the families, the students. So we really try to set up opportunities to have some transition meetings, articulation meetings. We even do a kindergarten readiness night with our Head Start families as well. And we partner with our Judy centers on that experience. So Gina and I are able to actually sit down with the families and kind of give an overview of kindergarten, what expectations, look like, what a kindergarten day looks like. And while we're doing that with the families, our Judy Center staff actually has all the children, and they do a little Build-A-Bear stuffed animal that they get to take home. And then as they're leaving, each family gets to take a hot pizza home with them for dinner as well. So this will be our 3rd year doing it. And it seems that each year enrollment, our attendance for that keeps going up. So, which is great, and a great partnership with them. And, we are seeing good things, but there still continue to be some challenges as well that we're still trying to work through, as everyone else is through this process. And I know sometimes that I hear from partners when we go out, because we've gone even to sites and visits to see, like, what can we do to help? Would this be a great space? And I know a challenge that they share is just the startup fee of doing it all, because if they are trying to start something, it's a lot, and it's expensive when you think about the cost of all the materials. You think about pre-K, sometimes they always say you have so much stuff, but there's cots, there's centers, there's manipulatives, there's materials. And then on top of that, is curriculums. Curriculums are expensive as well. And I know that sometimes is another challenge, that we're using different curriculums in our partners. You know, we still try to focus on best practices and developmentally appropriate, you know, routines and things like that. But there is a challenge when we're having PD and our PD is centered around our curriculum. There's some differences there with that. I know some of my colleagues have shared across the state, sometimes a challenge with them is if they have a partner and then all of a sudden their Excels drops, they're no longer allowed to apply for the grant the following year. So that's been a challenge sometimes that they are struggling with. And then, you know, trying to get them back on board then, because then it's just frustrating for some of our providers if they drop like that. I know another partner has shared, it's difficult for her that if she's going to pay one of her teachers a different salary than the teacher across the hall who's doing the same work sometimes. So she hears, we've heard that before as well, because she wants to value all of her staff. So those are just some of the challenge. We've even thrown around the idea to one of our providers, because they were trying to find a certified teacher. We threw the idea, hey, what if WCPS helped provide the teacher at your site, you know, as well, because we thought maybe we can try to collaborate. I know there'll be a lot of T's to cross and I's to dots with that because of everything with unions and contracts and all of those pieces. And at the time, they weren't ready for that, but I'm thinking that might be something we might want to approach again as we try to get more partners on board as well, because we're always trying to find ways to collaborate and partner with our private providers because we need them. So I think I hit it all. I know that was a lot of information. I'm very passionate about it. Love working with our early learning friends and with Gina. So any questions?
Thanks, Kelly. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, it's more of highlight, you know, I would like to highlight the WCPS, like you're partnering or at least looking at the possibility of providing teachers to the private facility. I know last year, Howard's going to be speaking next. They had the community mentor teacher that was actually doing my coaching and mentoring. I don't know what's happening this year, but it was very valuable, especially on my first year as a pre-K expansion grantee. The mentor teacher was able to at least tell me how best to move things around, so then it would be more conducive or more, you know, my centers will be easily achieved, because like in family childcare, we have a unique setting. So it's really, the classroom will not look like the actual classroom in the school. So, but then if a seasoned teacher has those eyes that can tell you, oh, if you move this, if you move it in the certain area, this is better for the certain activity or whatnot. So that was very helpful. Now my program looks so much different than when she first came, you know, because those advice or even my teaching was, you know, she said, why don't you just put this towards the end? And because she can see the kids were getting restless or antsy. So those tips were very valuable to me. Now my program is so much better because the school was able to guide me through, especially my first year as a pre-K expansion grantee. So we need those. Definitely we need them. We need teachers and we need mentors.
I think you need to open up something here in Western Maryland for us, Ruby. So we can partner with you.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of help from Howard, so thank God.
And I will say, maybe you have an answer to this, Ruby, but I know another challenge that we're seeing right now and trying to work through is that with our MOU, with our private providers, especially on the special education side of things, sometimes I feel like we have some bumps on the road with that because, you know, with confidentiality and the sharing of IEPs and the meetings and all of those pieces, that's something I would love to see get added into the MOU, because it's just a lot of, I feel like, things we're trying to break down, and we want our staff to feel valued and including them, but there's some confusion sometimes, I feel like, with that. So I'm not sure if you have the same issues there, you see or know.
Yeah, with with the special ed, it in the beginning it was also good partnership because they were also teaching us how to teach. Because
Sure.
teaching the special ed students is different than teaching the regular students. So that was very helpful. And with regards to the confidentiality, I guess you just need a release from the parents, and the parents are so willing to give you that release of information because they want what's best for their children in the end, you know. But you're right, there's still a lot with MOU and then all those confidentiality and of course working with private providers like people who don't have that experience, right? So it's like an extra added lift for the teachers because you're training other teachers how to you teach this particular child. So yes.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Kelly?
No, but
Yeah.
Stephanie's here. Maybe Stephanie can add some more.
Yeah.
She's with Howard.
Yeah. Thank you again, Kelly. And we will welcome our guest, Stephanie from Howard County. And welcome. And we can't wait to hear what you guys are doing in Howard County.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm Stephanie Getty. I'm the acting coordinator for early childhood programs as of 2 months. I have been currently serving as the instructional facilitator with the concentration in kindergarten. I also have my colleague Alicia here, Pippins, who will also be doing most of the talking. But one thing I have to say, Kelly, please, we got to keep Ruby, please, please, please. Ruby is one of our shining stars as far as partnership is concerned. And some of the things that Kelly actually lifted up are quite a few of the commonalities we have as well in Howard County. One of our biggest things right now is getting out to the part. Yes, we need our private providers. Space is limited. We are coming up on, fingers crossed, we'll be converting our last few schools soon. So that is in budget pending. So we're looking forward to doing those conversions and making those half days, full days. But once we hit that wall, once that happens, we will be reaching capacity. So we are looking for, to build our partnerships with our community partners out there, definitely as we get ready to address our threes. So that's one. And then just again, studying, working toward really making sure everybody understand that this is a community effort, not the school system, not the community. No one can do it all by themselves. We definitely need to pull together in order to make this what Blueprint is meant to be and the intent, which is getting our youngest scholars prepared for kindergarten and beyond. So we are really excited about that. So the messaging is really about, and then spaces like this is really lifting up. How can we do that well? And then how can it become sustainable? Like how can it go on and on and on? So we really are looking to hear from our community partners like Ruby, other LEAs and other counties, what's happening, what's working as we continue to grow our program and our experience with this. So I'm going to turn it over to Alicia to kind of just piggyback on some of the great things Kelly has said and then just uplift some of the things, because Alicia is one of our amazing educators that is actually in the field doing a lot of the work directly with our pre-K staff. Alicia?
Thanks, Getty. So like Stephanie said, I am a resource teacher in early childhood programs with Howard County Public School System. And I have taken on a role similar to what Ruby was saying. She had a mentor and coach last year from our office. So I just want to give kind of an overview of where we've been and kind of where we are currently with all of our partnerships with the mixed delivery model. So we currently have 5 providers that we partner with for our pre-K4 programming. And that's actually grown from 1 provider just last year. So we've grown 4 providers in just 1 school year, which is awesome. And that's a testament to the work that our previous coordinator has done to build those relationships, which are huge, to make sure that all of our families and our children who are eligible, that they have space for that high quality programming. So we have family childcare centers, center-based programs along with Head Start that we do partner with. And we advertise on our pre-kindergarten program website for HCPSS, those programs that we partner with and those providers, and then inquiry phone calls that families send to. And we work with partners in a lot of ways. Some of those, like Kelly had mentioned, and even Mei Ling had mentioned, that grant writing consultation and support, actual pre-K application and registration support. We do coaching and mentoring, like Ruby has mentioned. We also work with accreditation and Excels for those programs that are achieving both Excels and accreditation. We also allow and invite our professional learning for the school system. We have our private partners that we invite as well. So they come to our curriculum sessions, our countywide sessions, anything that's related to developmentally appropriate practices, teaching strategies in early childhood. And a lot of our providers have taken us up on those opportunities as well. So we really make sure, again, with that relationship, that we are building the needs and the capacity and addressing the goals that those individual partners have, because we know that they are unique to either their family childcare or their center-based or Head Start, and seeing them in the way that they can support children and families. We also have our kindergarten readiness assessment data that shows that our children who have attended a private provider prior to kindergarten have demonstrated readiness upon entering to kindergarten. So like that is huge for us to celebrate that. So thank you to all of our, family and center-based providers that support that success for kindergarten and for life. We also have a transition work group team that we've had for a long time in Howard County, and that partners with all of our early care providers to support that transition to kindergarten. So like Kelly had mentioned earlier, we have articulation forums, we have kindergarten classroom virtual visits, parent nights to answer questions, communication between the local school system or the local school and those partners in that community area for those events that the school is hosting. We also have a countywide kindergarten readiness workshop to support that transition that will happen in the fall too. And then we have been able to offer those PAUs or those professional activity units for credentialing for those providers in a variety of ways as well. And just, again, really want to commend the communication and collaboration that our private partners have with the local school system to support that transition to kindergarten. And then just want to highlight that we really are working with our partners, private partners, and increasing the collaboration and partnership through ECAC as well, our Early Childhood Advisory Committee, to promote those partnerships, and then also understanding those unique needs and challenges that private providers have. So knowing that families have their own preferences and needs, we really want to make sure that we are growing those partnerships and keeping those relationships strong to support our overall goal while meeting the families and the children where they are. So thank you.
Thank you both so much. Anybody have any questions for our Howard County friends? And I think I love how you said, I mean, you and Kelly both, like, when you talk about the partnerships, that's something we say all the time. Like it takes a village there. When they come to kindergarten, ultimately they're all of our children, and we want them to be ready, whether they come from a family provider, a private daycare center, or our public pre-K. And so, just getting everybody on the same page, and like Ruby said, I've gone in, and modeled lessons in childcare centers and things, just because it does take that team effort. And, and like you said, Alicia, just having them come to PD and going out and doing PD and things, just kind of building that collaboration is such an important thing. So I love hearing from you guys that of all the things that you're doing as well. And I took some notes to talk to Kelly about. So Ruby, did you have a question?
Yeah, no, more or less a comment. You mentioned, Kelly mentioned something about the curriculum. So what I did as a private provider is I used the same curriculum as the public school in Howard County, so that in that way I am included in the professional development. Actually, even Howard County includes Head Start. They have a different curriculum in the professional development that they have. And it's pretty helpful for us because the teachers actually show us how to do the curriculum, the next unit, for because the PD happens prior to the unit starting. So they would show us how they did it and some tips. They have Google Drive where they can share, and then we can just get the read alouds. And the read alouds has prompts, and the curriculum has, all these standards and stuff. It's really helpful. So it makes life so much easier for me because the ultimate flattery is copying, right? So I just copy what they do, and it's just makes so much easier for private providers that we don't have to do a massive elaborate planning on our side, and the public school is helping us. But it really helps if you have the same curriculum. So for Howard County, we have the Connect for Learning. Unfortunately, the Connect for Learning is created for 20 students. And with the family childcare, we are licensed for 8. But we can use the same curriculum 2 years in a row. So it's actually not that expensive if you look at it in that respect. It's a 2-year. And the first year grant, I do agree. It's a lot of expenses because that's when I purchased the curriculum, and that's also when I purchased my equipment. But on the second year, that's when I don't need the curriculum or the equipment. So you're right, it's the upfront costs that the providers need to either save up or avail of maybe some childcare capital loan, from the state that they can use to the revolving loan fund. That's another way.
Alicia and Stephanie, I guess that was going to be one of my questions. Do a lot of your private providers use your same curriculum? Because I know Kelly and I, that's something that we find sometimes is a little bit of a difficult thing, is that our private providers don't. We use CKLA and Bridges for ELA and math. And so when we do a lot of our PD, it's, science of reading and behaviors and book studies and things that are more general. But do you find a lot of your providers use your curriculum?
So Ruby and Head Start both use our Connect for Learning. So not all of our providers or our partners use the same curriculum. So we try to make sure that, again, those best practices and those teaching strategies are transferable, and all of the skills and the resources that we have, we still share so they can see how it can be used, because it's all, based on the Maryland Early Learning Standards and things like that. So not everybody has the same curriculum, but we still are able to invite them so they can see what it could look like, and then we can tailor it to their individual program needs if they would like.
Thanks. Anybody else have questions?
And I was just going to add to that too. And like in this particular season where we're getting ready for transition, a lot of times we're uplifting those readiness skills. What does it look like for a student to be transitioning from whether it's a pre-K classroom or a family childcare or a center? What does that look like for them to be getting ready to get some of that independence? Because once again, we're going from either a very small setting or multiple teachers into now going to a classroom with just one teacher, 20 plus students. So just helping to uplift the importance of that. And Alicia, Kim, and Kate did create like a checklist once, which they provide for our pre-K teachers and our partners, in which you talk about where they can kind of check in. Can your students do these things? Just like zip up their coat, open their things that sometimes we go, it's about the reading and the math, and we definitely want them to be able to do those, right? But we also recognize that level of independence that is required coming into a kindergarten classroom when there's 20 plus students is really necessary. So we want to uplift that with families. We want to uplift that with our private providers, because the kindergarten teachers can teach them to read and to write and to count. They got that. They're ready for that. But it's the things that they have to really spend a lot of time with, some of that independence that students sometimes come in with. So we definitely lift that up in this particular season and time of the year.
I always said, make sure they know they only have like 30 minutes to eat lunch. Cause I know like my nephew was a grazer. He wanted to like go and come back. And I was like, you can't do that in kindergarten. It's like, you've got, things like that. So yeah, I agree. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much to our guest speakers. Like I said at the beginning of the meeting, it's always great to hear from others and to learn. And while we're all learning to navigate all of this, and it's always great to gain ideas from everyone. So we really appreciate it. To the advisory committee, does anybody have any final thoughts as we start to wrap up our meeting?
I'm having a hard time unmuting. Gina, Howard and Baltimore City, they're doing like a partnership meeting. And I was wondering, because Stephanie is here, if we can expand that to other counties is willing to do that partnership meeting as well. It's more of how did you get started, or how do you do things, or how does this program work? It's more like that kind of sharing, which is really important, because the only way that we could accomplish that quality and have a robust blueprint is that we all work together. I mean, if you were able to successfully do it on your end, how did you do it successfully? So if you want, if Stephanie can, maybe if we can invite other people to that meeting. The meeting is going to occur on May the 9th at 1:30, and Stephanie is the organizer.
That is fine with me, Ruby. I mean, again, it's going to be very much like what we're doing today, like just kind of, because again, Alicia and I are stepping in the big shoes. Amy and Kate were amazing in that work, and we plan to continue it. So we're just taking every opportunity we can get, thanks to Ruby, because she kind of initiated the conversation. So we're just open to being able to share what we have, like the groundwork, the foundation we have, and then really listening in about opportunities that we can continue to grow and, increase our partnerships throughout our county. So Ruby, if you want to open up, it's not a hidden secret. So you're welcome to share it with your partners and anyone else that would like to.
I'm kind of curious with that universal pre-K in Washington County, how they were able to achieve that. So maybe
I'm always happy to partner and collaborate with you, Ruby, anytime.
Okay. All right.
I was going to say, I was going to throw it to Kelly. I was going to say, she probably would say, reach out and let us know. So
okay.
I was going to tell Howard, anytime they want to collaborate or talk, Stephanie, give me a call.
Okay.
You're welcome to come visit if you want to come visit.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think if there's no other questions, I just want to again thank our guest speakers. We really couldn't have these meetings without having guest speakers, and we truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy evenings to join us and to share all of the wonderful things happening across the state, and we just really appreciate it. And that will conclude tonight's meeting. And again, just thank you to everyone. Thank you to my co-advisory committee members, and we will see everyone again next month. And you get the gift of 5 minutes back in your evening. So thank you. And I hope everybody has a great evening, and see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay.
We're jumping to the other meeting. Oops.